All right, everyone, I got another quick little video for you all. This is going to be going over the other three weapons that came out with this Rite of the Nine update. And these are going to be in-game focused. You have a Vanguard, a Iron Banner, if you count that as in-game, and a Trials of Osiris one. So, going to talk about the PvE and PvP aspects of these. If you haven't seen, I posted a whole almost 30-minute video of all the Rite of the Nine weapons, everything I'm looking for in both PvE and PvP. So be sure to go check the video out if you haven't. But in this one, this is probably going to be a lot quicker. We're not going to be taking 30 minutes long. But let's start off with the first one. That is going to be Cruel Mercy. This is going to be an arc heavy burst pulse rifle. So these are some of the best primary weapons in the game DPS wise. They are very, very good. And by the looks of it, it looks like it has some solid perks. Now, we already have an arc weapon like this in the game that came from episode Echoes, and it's also competed with the Strain one that we have from Trails, the Solar one from Salvation's Edge. But this is from Vanguard, so it's a lot easier to get. So first off, in the first column, we have things like Dragonfly, Demolitionist, Eddy Current, and that's about it for PvE. I guess you could maybe include 4 times the charm. Next up is Rolling Storm. We'll throw Adrenaline Junkie in there, Frenzy, Kill Clip, and Desperado. So overall, pretty good perks. You have things like Dragonfly, which is obviously just a very, very strong, solid accurate perk. You compare that with Frenzy, and there really is nothing can go wrong with this weapon. It's going to just be a workhorse weapon. You get a bunch of reload speed, a bunch of handling, much damage, and some very good act there. But you can obviously also come out and pair that with things like Demolitionist, get some grenade energy back. You're playing into grenade-focused builds. Pairing that with Adrenaline Junkie or any other damage perk, obviously is still going to do very, very well. Unfortunately, there is no Volt Shot or jolting feedback on this weapon. I think that would make it do a lot better if you could do like Demo and Volt Shot or something of the sort. But unfortunately, they did not put that on here for some reason. I think one thing else that we do need to talk about though is the origin trait. Since this is a Vanguard weapon, it does come with Sudden Recovery and Vanguard's Vindication. Vanguard's Vindication low-key being one of the better origin traits, because every time you get a kill, you're going to heal. This is actually pretty solid since you are mainly using this as a primary accurate weapon, but it also does have Omalon Fluid Dynamics if you're playing into any PvP style with this. But for PvE, I personally would probably just go with Dragonfly and Frenzy. If you want to go with something like Desperado, this could also be pretty fun since this is the 2 burst pulse rifles. But overall, you're not going to really go wrong with any of these combinations. I think Dragonfly Frenzy probably going to be the best, but if you want to play into grenade build, Demolition is there, but I do think other weapons can cover that better. Now for PvP, your options are going to be Lone Wolf and Keep Away, which are obviously 2 very, very good perks. You can then pair that with Head Seeker, and then if you want to go for like a 6 style weapon, you can go for Kill Clip and Desperado. Again, pairing this with Omalon Fluid Dynamics, you will actually get the benefits of that top half magazine, which is nice. Keep Away, Lone Wolf, this is honestly up to you. Like I said, they're both very strong. I would probably just go the classic route of something like Lone Wolf and Head Seeker. There really is nothing you can go wrong with that. But if you want to slay out, for sure take something like Kill Clip or Desperado. And one final note before we go on for PvE, if you are playing into Bolt Charge, Rolling Storm is also a decent option. You can take something like Dragonfly, so you can actually have decent ad clear with things like Dragonfly that can also go into proc Rolling Storm. So there's some cool synergy with that there as well. Now, next up is going to be Nature Reclaimed. This is a 200 round per minute lightweight frame solar scout rifle. So right off the bat, honestly, a pretty solid archetype for PvE. For PvP, I think it's also pretty decent. Now, for PvE though, in the first column, we have things like Outlaw, we have things like Rapid Hit, we have things like Shoot to Loot, and we also have Heal Clip. We got some heavy hitters in there. Next up is Desperate Measures, Explosive Payload, Incandescent, and we'll throw Kill Clip in there, but let's be honest, no one's really using that much anymore in PvE. The cool thing is that it does have the origin trait Skulking Wolf. This does now work in PvE, so if you're at low health and get killed, enemies will start targeting you less, which is great. So you can actually take advantage of the Iron Banner origin trait now, which is very solid. So right off the bat, you have things like Shoot to Loot and Explosive Payload. This is a goated combo. Almost everyone wants to have a weapon like this in their inventory. It's really easy to pick the ammo up. Explosive Payload is just good for adding extra damage. You have good utility with the origin trait as well. It's a very, very, very good weapon. Now, if you want to play into other things, you have things like Heal Clip and Incandescent. Playing into solar builds, you have Cure, you have Scorch. That is going to be very solid. If you're just going for pure damage, you could take a reload speed perk with Rapid Hit or Outlaw, a damage based perk, or just take Explosive Payload. That's still going to be pretty solid. But I think most people are going to be leaning towards this Explosive Payload Shoot to Loot or either Heal Clip and Incandescent. Now, the question is this going to be better than things that we currently have? If you have a Shoot to Loot Explosive Payload, I don't particularly think you need to go farm for this one because it's not like the origin trait is that much better. But it's not the worst thing in the game. And most of the time, if you are using this combo, it is at harder activities to pick ammo up from across the map. So you may be at low health more often to actually proc the origin trait. Now for, Heal Clip, Incandescent, there are a bunch of other weapons in the game that can do this, but if scout rifles ever become just the go-to primary PvE meta, you definitely want to have this because the higher round RPMs are usually the best. I know this isn't the highest, but it is still very, very good. Now for PvP, on the other hand, you have things like Killing Wind. You also have Rapid Hit, Lone Wolf. Alongside that, Box Breathing, Desperate Measures if you want a damage perk, even Explosive Payload, and Precision Instrument. So the things here, I think what most people are going to go for is for sure Precision Instrument. This just is always a very solid PvP perk, especially if you enhance it. And then on top of that, things like Lone Wolf or even Rapid Hit. Rapid Hit's obviously going to pair extremely well with Precision Instrument, but again, Lone Wolf is just very good in general. Now, Killing Wind, I did mention, but this is going to give more range, and you don't really need that on a scout rifle, but if you get that, I guess it's not the worst thing. But if you just want a pure consistent weapon, Lone Wolf Precision Instrument is going to be very solid. And if there's some crazy interactions with Box Breathing to make this somehow 3-tap, if you have any other buff or some sort, definitely be on the lookout for that as well, because there's going to be some pretty cool shenanigans you can do with that. Now, finally, we have the Inquisitor. This is going to be a legendary pinpoint arc slug shotgun. This is going to come from Trials, and it has some pretty decent perks on it. So right off the bat for PvE, we have Envious Assassin, and I'm gonna be honest, that's about it. We can throw Threat Detector, Slash Shot in there, but they're more PvP perks, but you can use them in PvE. Next column, you have Bait and Switch, Cascade Point, Rolling Storm, and Precision Instrument. So pretty good perks in the second column, actually. For the origin traits, Alacrity, obviously pretty solid for things like Trials, One Quiet Moment, and then finally it has the Sheer Soldier trait, so really nothing to take advantage of too much in PvE, especially since our only main PvE perk is probably going to be Envious Assassin. But that is good though, because it does pair with things like Bait and Switch. That's going to be very good for damage increase. You could also take Precision Instrument. I'm not exactly sure which one's going to come out on top for just constantly shooting out of balls over and over again, but both are going to be very solid. Even Cascade Point, you can have that big mag with Envious Assassin, swap over to Cascade Point, unload it, and then just refill it back up with your primary weapon whenever you go slay out some more ads. That could be very good. Now, on top of that, you do have Rolling Storm if you're playing into bolt chart setups, but there are for sure better options. I mean, even Cruel Mercy if you're just trying to have a Rolling Storm weapon. But it's okay for PvE. I don't think this is going to overtake any of the other slug shotguns we have, especially if you already have one. But if you are primarily a PvP player and you don't have a good PvE slug shotgun and you get one of those rolls to drop, I would definitely keep it. It is very solid. But now for PvP, obviously this thing is literally loaded with good perks. You have Lone Wolf, All-Fan Strike, Perpetual Motion, Slap Shot, Threat Detector, second column, Closing Time. Fragile Focus is also pretty solid. And then Opening Shot. Pretty much any of those combinations are going to be goated. Threat Detector, Opening Shot is always a classic. Slash Shot, Opening Shot is always a classic. Closing Time did get nerfed, but it is still very solid. You can pair that again with the other two perks that I've already recommended. If you're going for some crazy hipfire stuff, obviously All-Fan Strike could be pretty solid. You could just hit enemies from very, very far away since this is a slug shotgun. And Fragile Focus is the interesting one because this is going to gain bonus range whenever your shield is not destroyed. Obviously with a shotgun, you are kind of running and gunning, so there's a chance the shield's going to break, but since it is a slug, you will have that little extra range. So maybe you could get a few extra distances off with this. But if you need a very, very solid slug shotgun for PvP, look no further. This thing is going to be crazy. And if you need a decent PvE shotgun because you don't have any other slug, this one definitely has you covered as well. If you're farming for the PvP one, you might as well keep it. But that is all of the new in-game playlist weapons. Cruel Mercy probably being the coolest one because again, it's just going to be a very, very solid at clear weapon, especially with that Vanguard's Vindication. Nature's Reclaim is going to be very solid if you don't have that shoot to lose explosive payload combo. If you're playing into solar, I could see myself farming for this. I don't know if I'm going to go too crazy with it, but again, it is a pretty solid scout rifle if you don't have anything like it. And then Inquisitor, again, very solid for PvP, decent for PvE if you get one to drop. Overall, I think all of these weapons are pretty solid. They're definitely like all either A ranked, maybe. No, honestly not. I think they're all A ranked. There's nothing S tier here, but all of these are actually pretty solid. And if you need anything like this to add to your arsenal, I would definitely be on the lookout for them. But anyway, that's going to do it all for me. Again, if you haven't seen my Ride of the Nine video, definitely be sure to go check that one out. There's a ton of weapons, but I wish y'all the best of luck on farming for all this. I want to thank you all so much for watching and hope you all have a great day. Peace.